Karl Wolf.
Karl Wolf.
Karl Wolf.
I call myself the eternal optimist. I'm always like, I can do anything.
And actually, what kind of advice can you give to someone that's just starting out?
I'm giving you some gems here. This is like some secret, some inside stuff.
Proudly sponsored by Soho Hotel Toronto, the following podcast is hosted by Elizabeth Crisante, current Chief CCO at Billboard Canada and UK, a partner at Rolling Stone Quebec, and a model at Unik Models. This is Haute Conversations.
The story with Africa is the craziest story of my life.
Okay, let's hear it.
It was the toughest time of my life, and I borrowed the most money. When something has never been done, you don't know whether to do it or not. Do I bring my culture here? Do I infuse that? Is that weird? I went to all the labels. All of them said no.
Tips and tricks for balancing a crazy schedule.
How to make it in this cruel world.
Okay.
One is
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Haute Conversations, the podcast where high fashion meets popular culture in the most stylish way. My name is Elizabeth Crisante, and I am your host. And today, on our very first episode, we have an incredibly talented human being with us. Singer, songwriter, producer, entrepreneur, the list goes on and on and on. Mr. Karl Wolf. Thank you for joining us, Karl.
Thank you for having me. Ow! Had to bring the howl in. Yo, man, congratulations. This is amazing. Thank you for having me.
You're amazing.
Yeah, appreciate you.
You've got so much on the go, and I know you, but I want to know you. Let's hear about your journey.
Let's dig deep.
How did you get into music? Everything. I want to hear it all.
So my parents are both musicians. My mom was a piano teacher growing up.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up in Dubai. So I left Lebanon when I was 3 years old because of the civil war. I went to school in Dubai. My parents got a job there. And my mom was a piano teacher. And so while I was doing homework, she was ear training people. So in piano, if you take piano lessons, if nobody knows.
So you're it's going into your brain.
It's just absorb, absolutely. So you just got to listen to some of the notes and then recount some of the notes and know that if you're on point or not. It would be natural for me because I'm just studying and doing my homework while I'm listening to her teaching people. I think from that point on, I just started getting into piano myself. My mom was like, "Oh, I want to teach you. I want to give you the first grade, second grade, third grade." I'm like, "Mom." So I got up to third grade piano with her. Just for everybody to know, there's only up to 8 grades, and then you can become a teacher of piano, right? So I went up to third grade, and then that's when I just said, "Mom, I can't do this no more. I'm going to start playing on my own." And then a couple of years after that, I started playing all these different songs. I just picked it up by ear.
What genre of music? Just everything?
I guess anything. It started off classical.
Right.
And then, the typical classical.
Yeah, Beethoven.
Exactly. So I'd go for that. But then, there's popular songs, Bryan Adams, Everything I Do. I would just play. And my mom was blown away. She's like, "What? How are you doing this?" I'm like, "Well, you gave me the basics,
right.
And now I just took it, right?" And I think that's what entrepreneurship was for me as well. Just getting the basic and then taking it. Absolutely.
It's the action that really takes us to the next level because you can learn a lot in theory, right?
But you got to put it in action and in the real world, right?
And you take a lot of action in your life.
Absolutely. I think that's how, you can accomplish anything. And that's what happened with music. It wasn't something I wanted to do or was a reality for me. Growing up in the Middle East, growing up in Dubai, I was going to be a lawyer. Like my whole focus was, okay, I'm good at arguing. I'm good at coming up with arguments to certain things. I wanted a debater and I wanted to be a lawyer at some point. And then I came to Canada to further my studies. I went to university at Concordia in Montreal. Yep. And I'm like, man, I love entertainment. So I went in film. So I studied film studies and minored in childhood psychology. So I was like, wow, this is so... Yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay.
I didn't like the... Yeah, so I did an internship. I've never had any other job other than this 6-month internship at a daycare center.
Wow.
Not for me.
Not for
That's
Karl.
when I knew I'm like, okay, changing diapers, all this stuff is not my vibe.
Yeah.
So I went into, directing all my music videos and yeah.
Well, and it's what your original passion was, it sounds like, right? Music.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know what it is? It's more making people happy on some level, like seeing the joy in people. I'll tell you something really interesting. In social media, what I've discovered is when we sing, let's say there's a script and I'm singing the script and I'm talking the script. There's 2 different outcomes that the people will feel from you.
Right.
When I talk, there's a lot more scrutiny.
Right.
But when you sing, there's a lot more joy. So 99% of the comments will be all positive if I'm singing something. And then if I'm talking that same thing, 60% is, positive. The rest, 40% is negative, So it's weird. If politicians could only sing.
Oh, that's so
Right?
funny. It's funny talking about social media. I never realized how funny you were. I love what you do on social. I feel like your personality really comes out. Like
funny.
I'm constantly laughing at what you put onto Mark.
It always happens 4 a.m. So if you're,
Yeah.
what are you doing awake at 4 a.m.? You shouldn't be.
Working.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
All the entrepreneurs out there. Right?
Yes.
She coughed on me, now I'm feeling so weak. Yeah.
During the pandemic, I just felt like, okay, we've got no events. Concerts are few and far between. We can't get out. What's the way to communicate with my fan base, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got my camera, I got my studio. Maybe I should show people how I produce all my songs and how I've done it for the past 10, 15 years. So that's what I did. I started, producing tracks. And then it became something like, okay, let me be funny here. Let me create something that's a little more than music. I think comedy is so interesting on social media, and music is so interesting on social media. But when you marry the two, it's like 21 million views. So I started getting like heavy views. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm just going to constantly make funny, silly, stupid things.
And even in these funny, silly, stupid things, you've got some like really good beats that you're dropping in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the trick, right? It's such a funny thing because it's been hard to not monetize those per se, but the music industry is interesting that way. You have to create a song, you put it out, it's got to go on the digital service networks, right? Like so Spotify, all the platforms, Apple Music, and sometimes they're the ones that create and make the hits, right? There's still a gatekeeper system. Yeah. So Spotify is essentially saying, I'll put you on that playlist, and that playlist has 5 million, viewership. So at that, or listenership, and that's how you can get your song to top 10 or streaming a lot. But when it's a funny song, even though it's dope, they're like, we don't know where to place it.
Right.
So you can't even monetize that. So even although it's viral and it's going crazy, we can't seem to monetize that because they don't consider it like a real song.
Right.
Even because it's a parody and whatever.
I say you can't eat, I know, but you're craving shawarma. Wrap it up down, I've tried, and with some extra hummus.
A lot of fame, but not a lot of monetizing. So in order to monetize, I have to write my original songs. And when I write my original songs, they're not viral as much because they're not as funny.
I'm working late, and there's no zatar. I dream of lahm ajeen. You think you're antar. I want some lemony. Come give me knefi. Let me enjoy that. Stop trying to convert me.
So as I mentioned in the introduction, you've got many layers and you've got a lot going on from an artist yourself. Then you've got Lone Wolf Entertainment, Lone Wolf Records. Tell me about all the different initiatives that you have going on at once.
So Lone Wolf Entertainment started when I was younger, when I just started in music. I'm like, okay, I realized that in order to get ahead in music, you have to have a record company. And record companies are still gatekeepers,
Right.
Now, of course, in 2024, you can circumvent that. You don't need to go to a label per se. You can create your own. You can go to social media. You can go viral, etc. And you can release it on DistroKid. You can have your own releases, your own marketing. It's fine as long as you know what you're doing to some degree. Back then, I'm talking like maybe 15 years ago, around that time, you had to get a label. And it wasn't easy to get a record deal, right? You'd have to prove yourself. The same thing like today. And so I decided, you know what? Let me control my own destiny. Let me create my own label, get a distributor, a distribution deal. So we did a distro deal with, Maple, Fantana North at the time. And then eventually it went to Universal once I had Africa, and that exploded. The story with Africa is the craziest story of my life.
Okay, let's hear it.
I tell this story and it either makes me sad or smile because it was the toughest time of my life and I borrowed the most money and it was the biggest risk that I ever took and nobody believed in it for 2 years. So this song, Africa, the original, Toto's, I was 10 years old in Lebanon. And I remember sitting down and this neighbor of my grandma's, she was a beautiful girl. And she sat next to me and she gave me a kiss on the cheek at that moment when Toto's Africa was playing in the courtyard. And it changed my world. I
Are you
understood.
serious? This sounds like a made-up story. It's almost like
It's not a made-up story.
Whoa.
It's completely true. You can look at. I've said
no,
it.
no,
in
I
other,
believe you. I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's just like how the stars aligned and you've got this, prophetic moment.
Absolutely, it was totally serendipitous in that way. And at that moment, I understood what the harmonies in Africa meant to me in my heart. Right, as a young boy, I was like, "Whoa, I'm feeling something. What is this? Is this love? Is this what you feel?" So I associated it to music.
Wow.
And in time, as I got older, I was like, okay, well, how do I break in the industry? I'm a Middle Eastern guy coming to Canada, to North America. How do I stand out? There's Justin Timberlake, there's Usher, there's all these artists that are killing it in North America. Do I copy them? Do I not? Do I bring my own brand? What does my own brand mean? I couldn't figure it out. At some point, I was like, maybe I just bring in my Arabic roots. And that it was a complete not fluke, but it's so hard to be a pioneer like that.
It's gonna take a lot to drive me away from you, but there's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I bless the rains down in Africa. We're gonna take some time to do the things we never had.
When you look back, oh, that was the right move. You're the father of A-pop or Arabic pop, whatever. But at the time, you're in the trenches. You don't know what's going on. But I took a chance on that. I'm like, let me listen to my mom's Arabic music. So I would listen, I'd research all the tablas, derbuka, the Oud, which is like a fretless guitar.
I just came back from Dubai. I've heard it. It's so sexy.
So it's cool because it's all quarter notes, really interesting stuff, and all my knowledge, of course, with hip hop music, R&B music, and I put it together. And I made a song called Butterflies. That was the first. I'm going right before Africa. Right. Butterflies was sort of an Arabic Middle Eastern song sung in English. It was the first of its kind, and that, in the equivalent of what goes viral today, is what sort of blew up around the world through message boards. In Dubai, Egypt, Lebanon, Canada, places in Canada, people were like, oh, who's this guy, Karl Wolf? He's coming up with Arabic music, but he's not. He's singing in English. It was something that was twisting people's brains.
Yes.
Right? I was blending East and West together. It was so unique. I was scared of it. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm doing something fresh. And that creative brain, it became something crazy. And at that point, I started having some interest from labels. And they're like, oh, who's this guy coming up with some? So Def Jam Records hit me up in the States, in New York. And we're like, yo, you're coming up with something so fresh. We want to fly you in. So they flew me in. They never signed the deal finally, but it was still something. I was like, whoa, I'm getting somewhere. And then
You're getting the attention.
I'm getting the attention.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, man, I got to make a smash. Like I need to tear hole through this world of music, right? Bring something fresh. And that's when I'm like, let me go back to my Africa moment, that moment that I felt. Let me go back and bring those harmonies to people today, the young audience today that don't know that song, in a way that they would understand it, which is sort of dance hall at the time. Dance hall was starting to become popular through Sean Paul.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I feel the vibe. And I'm Middle Eastern, so I still have those kind of traits in me, you know what I mean? Like that rhythm section.
Yeah.
And that's when I put it together, and it just, at that point, I had a smash. I knew the song was a banger. Now here comes the issue, the business side. I went to all the labels, Warner, Universal, Sony, EMI. All of them said no. They liked it. They knew there was something there, but they're like, who's making remakes? Nobody is, only Diddy at the time. And you don't have Sean Paul on the record. You have some guy called Culture, Dance Hall. I don't know if that'll work on radio. I'm like, man, all right, whatever. So it took me 2 years.
Boy, did it work on radio.
Let me tell you, the same version they said no to, 2 years after that, I finally, I had $5,000 left. So I borrowed so much money. I shot the video. All that was done on my own dime. Shot the video, got the rights, bought the rights to it. I own 25% of that.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So the original Toto, they're making, through my version, they're making so much money as well. So they made 75% of it, But I owned the master rights to that song and 25% of it. So I put it out, and I didn't have any outlet to it. So I took the last $5,000. I got a radio promoter. So a radio promoter in this industry basically takes your song and puts it on radio.
Right.
Has the network and the connections to get it on radio stations and whatever. He couldn't do anything for a full year. I paid him the money, but he couldn't do anything. Finally, we got a call saying that Mix 96, which is Virgin Radio Montreal, had played it on Smash or Trash, or one of their hit or miss shows that they do.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. And it won the first night, won the second night, won the third night. It won 8 nights in a row against Britney Spears, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, all these guys at the time.
Seriously?
Swear to God.
What year was that?
This was 2006.
So against Britney and everything.
And it won every single night. And I didn't know. So you know how these days you can just get on socials and just get
instant data.
Yeah, and you can get your fans to support you and whatever. We didn't have that. And then on the 8th one that it won, his name was Mark Bergman. He put it on Smash or Trash, and it won, and he put it as a light rotation on their station. At that point, almost every radio station across the country called me personally and said, how come you don't give us the song? Why do they have it? I'm like, bro, you want the song? Boom, I sent an email. 1, 2, 3, 4. We became number 32 in the country on radio, Billboard charts, without any help from a label. At that point, EMI called me back and said, Karl, we feel terrible that we didn't sign you. Do you want a record deal? We'll give you a record deal. We'll give you a thing. I'm like, bro, send it to me. 2 days later, we signed the deal. A week later, I was number 1 in 20 different countries around the world with that song. The same song they said no to 2 years ago became probably the biggest single I've ever had till this date, and it still pays till this day. All the royalties, I still feed my family, everything, and it takes care of my business till this day.
So that was an uphill battle, and you had to really trust your own instinct with it, self-funded.
I knew it.
And then you knew it was going to be a success.
You know how I knew? I knew I would play the song in my car and drive around Montreal at the time, and just at night and just listen to it. I'm like, man, the harmonies, the beat. I would go into a club, the DJs would play it, people would dance, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense that the labels are not taking it. So that's why it's so important for you to believe in yourself beyond anybody else, because if you don't fight for it, nobody really cares about you. You got to really want it, and it's got to come from within that nucleus, and I made it happen, and I proved it to myself. We're 13 awards in, 13 platinum and gold records. I mean, it was the spearhead to a great career for me, and it's just starting. We have so much to go. Anyway.
I'm so impressed and so inspired, and honestly, I think that this same attitude and way of approaching life and work is what you're doing in the entrepreneurial side of things as well. So I'd love to hear about the businesses you've got on the go and that sort of work, and how you've pulled that same focus. Trusting your instinct and focus and determination.
It's really interesting, right? Because people don't necessarily want you to fail, but they don't want you to. So there's no one that's going to really help you out of nowhere. Right. If you don't believe in yourself, that's the strongest thing. I see a lot of great talents fail because they gave up. Okay, you can't fail. As long as 50 Cent said it best. Get rich or die trying. Right. At the end of the day, we're going to be. This is a journey. This is what it's all about. And you got to love your journey. So I feel bad for some people with so much talent, and they just sort of give up at the end. And I've seen it time and time and time again. I've got friends of mine from Montreal. Till this day, I'm like, damn, you were so much more talented than me. You had everything. Yeah. But I had this unwavering, almost psychotic belief in myself that I could see it. It's some vision that I'm envisioning. You know what I mean? As long as I see the vision, I can walk towards it. So fast forward till today, I've got a record company I opened up, 4 a.m. Vibes Records.
4 a.m. Vibes Records.
Yeah, and it was created obviously at 4 a.m. during these productions during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I partnered with the the former vice president of BMG and the global director of Disney Music Group.
Wow.
Yeah, Eric Palmquist. And so we partnered together. So I've got an American partner, which is amazing. This way, any artist we sign from here, we've got a mandate, of course, to get them to top 20 here in Canada. Once we go to top 20 in Canada, we go to the US directly with it. So that's really cool. Some big things happening. Danny Doucette is my first artist. She's top 30 on radio with Fire Alarm.
I love Danny.
So that's really cool. It's our first artist, first situation. All the record labels around us, like all the majors are all like, how is Karl Wolf with his new label on the radio?
I hear it. Yeah. I'm in the industry with you.
I'm just like, whatever, bro. We're doing it, Because listen, it is a tough industry out there, and everyone's fighting against you. Whether it's talking, whether it's saying, hey, listen, I'm giving you some gems here, by the way. This is like some secret, some inside stuff. So people are always fighting against you. They'll say, oh, why don't sign Karl? No, we got this other artist that's better. Everybody's fighting for time. I heard this throughout my career. So I know that it's there and I know it exists. So I'm fighting a real fight. When you're an independent artist, you're really fighting a battle. You know, you're working extra hard more than everybody else and you're getting less results than everybody else. And that's just the reality of it. I love the challenge. That's just my default. I love the challenge. I don't want it easy. I love this. But yeah, for Danny Doucette, she's doing really well. And we got more artists. We got a country song coming out. Really cool.
I saw that. That's exciting.
It's called City Boy Meets Country Girl. And Nashville is mixing it right now. So it's really important to get Nashville involved, obviously, on a country song. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But it's going to be under 4am vibes.
Okay, so Africa was an interesting journey. You've told us a lot about, you know, the intricacies of getting that rolling and as big of a hit as it's now become. I'd love to hear a little more about purchasing the rights and everything behind that.
Wow. So it seems like I've become sort of an expert in getting rights and buying rights. I've done like 5 or 6 remakes now, but it's all started with Africa. And that was the toughest thing I've ever had to go through. It took a long time to get the rights to it. I recorded the song first. So we didn't know what we're doing, right? We're a young artist. I've got my manager at the time, still the same manager, by the way. So same manager for 15 years.
Who's
Pascal Malcoun.
Right.
Great guy, incredible guy. And I was recording the song. I was like, okay, now that I have the creative, what do I do? How do I put this out? You can't just put out a song, especially if it's evolved a little bit, then you've added your own lyrics to it and you've added your own drum beat to it. You've changed it. As long as you change a song, you can't really just put it out there and relinquish 100% of the rights. You do have to get approvals because they consider it like a sample clearance.
Right.
That's the difference, you know, unless if you just do a cover, for example, if I did the straight cover of Africa with the verse that it is, everything with the same music, the same arrangement, you just give them 100% of the royalties. You don't make any money off it. You do own the master rights because you own the master production of it because you didn't sample any vocal. If you can't sample the vocal, you have to re-sing it. Then you keep some of your master ownership and then you can make some money from Spotify, etc. But publishing wise, when it plays around the world on radio, you're not getting any of that residual. But the way I wanted it is I wanted to own the song because I created some of the new verses. I reproduced the beat. I re-sang everything. I felt like it was my song. I just took the chorus and I re-sang the chorus. At that point, I had to treat it like a sample clearance. So what I did was I reached out to the band, and the band gave me a bit of a runaround. No one was answering. So we finally got a hold of one publisher and there was several writers on it. So we had to get this guy's approval, that guy's approval, several people's approvals. We got one of them. Then we had to reach out to the other guy. He lived in Burma, in Myanmar. So it was hard to get a hold of them. Finally, after 2 years of working so hard, I finally got the approval. They wanted cash money up front, sort of an advance on the thing. And they would only give me the approval for Canada. So for X amount of dollars, X thousand amount of dollars, you'd get the approval for Canada. And if it goes to the States, then you'd have to pay another amount. I said, you know what, let's focus on Canada. Let me get this going first.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And then it just took off from there. And I own 25% of the song. In essence, we gave it a sort of a resurgence for their song. They started charting when my song started charting because my song was #1 on Billboard. And then they started, you could see the original Toto just kind of start to go up. So, it was a cool full circle moment when I met them. It was 2 years ago or last year here in Toronto. And I went backstage and they were like, Karl, your version was our favorite version. To hear that is honestly so special, right? Like it was so cool.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so you own 25% of the...
So on the publishing, but the mastering rights. So when I did a deal with Universal at the time, they wanted the full master rights of my whole album, right? So they wanted to own the Africa and all the rest of the album that was on there, all the songs on the album. I remember as a young guy, I was like, you can take all of them, but I was so protective of that song because I knew that that's like my calling. That's I had a feeling that song chose me. I didn't choose that song, that chose me. So I was like, no, you're not going to take the rights to that. So I fought tooth and nail. I remember it was a big back and forth. They're like, no, we can't relinquish rights. I'm like, no, I'm keeping the master rights. They finally settled. They were like, okay, we got to put this out. It's already moving around the world. It was a deal I did with, it was EMI Dubai or Middle East at the time.
Yes.
So they were the ones that gave me the deal around the world.
Wow.
It was through them. And I did a deal with them. And check this out. In time, money was accumulated, a lot of money. And because they were claiming it, there was a dispute. So I was claiming it on some of the societies of authors and composers and whatnot. They were claiming the rights. I was claiming the rights. So there was a what's it called? A draw, right? but the money's just being accumulated, thousands of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, it's a lot of money. Finally, I had to prove. So they were like, no, Karl, Universal owns the rights, so we're going to give them the money. I'm like, no, hold on. I went back into all my contracts. I looked it up and I couldn't believe it. I'll show it. I swear to God, I'll send you guys the thing. Maybe you'll show it. One line that says, you have the rights for all the songs except Africa. We own the master rights to that.
So
I sent it to them right away. They released the money.
Wow.
I was like, woo. And remember, this is like years and years of just accumulating royalties. My royalties have never stopped going up. Like that song is just, it was my version was on Family Guy. It was on TV shows you would never even imagine. Friends. It was on Friends. I swear to, it was on, I look at my because you could see all the back end of BMG and the royalties they pay me. It was on so many TV shows. And it's really cool.
So you've been named the father of A-pop, and that's Arabic pop for those of you that don't know. How did that come about? What does that mean to you?
It's always interesting hearing it, but at the time, listen, it was few and far between. There was no one to look up to in terms of someone who was Middle Eastern, who was doing something in North America. It was not existent. I was just going through uncharted territory, like, how do I bring this to North America? Do I bring my culture here? Do I infuse that? Is that weird? When something has never been done, it's almost like you don't know whether to do it or not. You're creating history here.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. As a young guy, I'm just like going through it, trying to figure it out. But I was lucky, enough to have Dean Cameron, who was the president of EMI Records. Rest his soul, he's passed away now. When we signed Africa to EMI, we needed a second single, third single. So Carrera was the second single. But then at the third single, he's like, Karl, what do you want to do next? I'm like, man, I got this song called Yalla Habibi, okay, which means let's go, my love. And it's really a positive song. I really want to change people's perspectives of Middle Eastern people around the world. There's so much negativity, 9/11, Arabic people are bad, this and that. There's a whole thing. And I'm like, man, maybe I can fight against that somehow, with my positivity. Let me try. So I created a song called Yalla Habibi. And he was like, I was shy. I was like, I don't think this would work with a North American crowd. I told him straight up. We had a meeting on it, and he looked at me and he was like, what are you talking about? This is who you are. It's so genuine. You're being true to yourself. And if they don't like it, that's on them. But you have to be true to yourself. I'm like, really? You think I can put a song called Yalla Habibi out? We put it out. It became #1 on iTunes, the first Arabic title song on iTunes R&B charts here in Canada.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it worked. And today it's changed and it's created a pathway for Middle Eastern music mixed with, North American music. That's so prevalent now. It's like become the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if I was directly instrumental, but several of us were. There was another artist called Masari at the time, and Belly, now they're all working with The Weeknd. They've created great things. I'm so proud of them. Sal, everybody. They've done such great things with The Weeknd.
Amazing.
In time. Yeah.
So I'd love to know the chronology of your evolution here. So did you start as an artist and then you went into opening your own record label and then entrepreneurial ventures sort of started to evolve, or how did that happen?
I think it was simultaneous. I think the record company thing was at the same time. I call myself the eternal optimist. I'm always like, I can do anything. So at the time, which was a bit of a mistake, I started a management company and I started having artists under my management tutelage, if you will. Yeah. And I had 4 or 5 artists, and it was difficult. You got to focus on one artist that you can champion all the way, put your eggs in that basket and really make them work. I had 5. I was thinking, I'll start this management company. I'm Karl Wolf. I'm on top of the world. I got Africa. I got this. I got that. I was very cocky. I was like, I can do anything now. And I'm like, I learned quickly, and I put a lot of money into those projects, and it didn't work too well for me. So looked at other different businesses. Now I'm working with my girlfriend. She's amazing. She started this vegan cheese company. So yes. I love business, and I love helping in some way. Obviously, I'm a small partner in it, but it's a woman-owned business. Yes. And she's doing great. I'm just supporting and helping as much as I can.
So I am vegan. We did talk about this before the show, and I am definitely trying Better Brie. I can't wait.
It's honestly, it's amazing. I'm not a vegan, but I love it. It's my favorite cheese. Listen, I'm the best spokesman for the brand.
I think,
because I believe in her.
Sounds like it.
I believe in her. I think she's amazing. She's got a lot of future ahead of her, and it's a new business, right? It's a new world. Vegan
Right.
is, it's a whole new thing. It's becoming
And we need
popular.
more cheese, vegan
Right.
cheese.
Absolutely.
And so think about how different all the different ventures you have are. Like you've been a specialist on the music side of things and understanding every aspect of that music journey. And now you've understood a whole new industry and you've seen that grow from the ground up. You understand all the facets of that production of that business.
Absolutely.
So what keeps you fresh like that? Like how do you stay so innovative? What could you share with other entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I think you have to understand that you got to believe in yourself. I think that's the fundamental thing about success in any business you do. You got to believe, you got to know, you have to have the vision. So don't just aimlessly just run in all directions wherever it takes you. Yeah, that's good. Good to take opportunities where they come, but sort of have at least a dream, because the dream is a direction, at least that, and then follow that and don't take a lot of people in this industry or any industry will claim that they know something and they're like, you don't have what it takes. I heard that all my career. And I've heard, you've heard countless stories of artists and celebrities who've made it, who've always been told, oh, you don't have what it takes,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. It's the typical story. It happened to me many times. And I just plow through that. You
Right.
can't listen to that noise. So you got to believe in yourself. Be strong about it. Be tough about it. Be you. Be unique. I think the uniqueness is what makes you special. A lot of people want to kind of fit in, right?
Yeah.
By default, we all want to fit in.
We do. Written in our DNA, we just want to be
want,
part of the
I want to be
plan.
like Drake. I want to be like The Weeknd. No, the fact that you're not is what makes you incredible. You don't understand that because you are you. So you're looking through your POV, but you don't understand we're looking through here. And you got to somehow have an objective point of view of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's key.
And I think you don't always figure that out right away. It's
No.
almost like through trial and error, and you start to see, oh, I
Yeah.
like how this feels. I don't like how that feels, and this is my
You
true
almost give up.
personality.
You almost give up. You almost say, man, I'm sick of trying to be like Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's working for me. So you're like, I have no choice now. They've cornered me because the truth is the public will let you know. Okay. We're in a world where you can get the public's opinion like that. You can
Right.
put it on
Instant.
TikTok, Instagram, Reels, let's go. They'll let you know if it's hot or not
Yeah.
very quickly. Good and bad, right? Bad hurts for the ego, good when it works. It's great. I love it. I think it's amazing. I think we know when a hit is a hit. We know when it's not. Boom. We don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to
Right.
market research, put a lot of money investment. Just wait for it to work on its own and then put some money behind it.
So you've produced a lot of music over the years, and you have strong ties to the Quebecois community, Montreal artists you've worked with.
Yep.
Do you have any memorable moments working with some of the Quebec artists? And I'd love to hear some of your favorites.
I do. So yes, I did start my career in Quebec. So I was part of Star Academy 1, Star Academy 2. So these are TV shows, kind of like Canadian Idol, American Idol type
Right.
shows. And I was instrumental in producing or co-producing and co-writing most of the songs on that album with my partner at the time, Antoine Sicotte. He was the former duet of Sky, the group
Okay.
Sky.
Yes.
So he was the bass player in the group Sky, which I became the lead singer of Sky in time. And because of that project that we worked together. So he was really a big influence in my life, I would
Right.
say. So big up, shout out to Antoine Sicotte. It was great working with different Quebec artists. I have a French background because my mom speaks French. We're
Yes.
Lebanese.
Right.
Usually you have a French little thing. So I speak French. It was interesting. It was fun. We sold a lot of records. We went 500,000 albums sold in Quebec with my
Wow.
first Star Academy that I did. Then I produced this artist called Gabrielle de Trois Maisons. It was her first time. She was 17 years old at the time.
Wow.
It was her first record deal, and we went platinum and gold with it. So that was something that I was very proud of. I won
Wow.
my first award, which was at La Disque, which is the Grammys for Quebec, for Best Sound and Mix of the Year. At that point, I knew I was like, yo, I'm destined for this. Like it can't be, even though they didn't want me as the artist, I was producing and songwriting for other artists.
Right.
I'm not your typical like media darling, I think you could say. It was always a bit of a struggle. I've seen other artists alongside of me get a lot of more love in certain places. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. Man, I'm not from here. Maybe there's a gap in the, what they could see as a star and what's not a star.
Right.
And that hurt me at times, I'll be honest. I was like, why do they get it? What's going on? Am I the ugly duckling? Like, what's happening? But I guess life has to force you to prove it, at some point. And now I'm better off.
So you've got a lot on the go. What's on the agenda next? Like, what are you working on right now?
Right. Well, I'm very excited about the new record company, 4am Vibes Records, with Danny Doucette as my first artist. So I love mentoring artists. We've done it for Karl.
Yes.
So we can do it for other artists. I always say this: if we could do it for this artist, we could literally do it for anyone. Just have some great talent, and there's a lot of great talent out there. So I'm looking to sign another 4 artists by next year is my mandate. But Danny Doucette is our first artist. We're very excited about her. She's a super talent. She's an incredible, strong woman, and I'm glad that it's a woman that I'm supporting. I think it's time for men to be allies of women in this business, because there's a lot of things that happen,
Amen.
Yeah, I hear about it all the time, in the workforce and the things sexualized, et cetera, and I'm here to be an ally. And
I love this.
I'm excited for her. I've seen my mom throughout life try to, she's an author, she's a piano teacher, so I've seen her be strong at times, but also I've seen where people took advantage of her, you understand, as a man, and I could see where men don't take advantage of us in the same way.
Right.
And I noticed that there is something there. For anybody that says it's not real, they're lying.
Right.
So I'm proud to do that, and I can't wait. I think she's going to be a superstar. We have a country song coming out featuring myself. It's called City Boy Meets Country Girl.
Yes.
We just got it mixed in Nashville. We're going to Nashville to just meet the guys who mixed it and mastered it. I'm very excited. The world is our oyster, as they say.
How do you balance
Or my
everything?
shawarma, as they say. Sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. I was going to ask, how do you balance everything? And actually, what kind of advice can you give to someone that's just starting out and has a lot on the go? Tips and tricks for balancing a crazy schedule.
Okay, let's just go back to how to make it in this cruel world.
Okay.
One is you have to have a team. Team is so crucial. I've had the same team for 15 years.
Wow.
Same manager, same guys around me for the majority. Of course, other people have went on to other things, but the majority of my team is the same. That's crucial because you gotta win with them, lose with them, win with them, lose with them. I think Drake probably does the same thing. The Weeknd and those crew, same thing. It's so important. You gotta win together, lose together. It feels like a family. And they got your back when you're down. And I've seen a lot of artists, that just choose other people when things are down or things are up. When they're winning, they're like, okay, you know what? I don't need this manager. I don't need this. I've never ditched my manager. I don't do that to people because that. One day, Karl, you're not going to be on top. And it happens. My career has been like this.
Yes.
And it's always going to be like this because the public chooses to decide whether Karl Wolf is hot or not, not me. I'm always hot. In my opinion, I'm always go, 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 go. It's not up to me. Sometimes they're like, Karl's not hot. There's other artists. Good. No problem. So you're going to be down at some point and someone's got to be there for you and your team's got to be for you. So for me, that's the most important thing. So have a good, solid team.
Yalla.
Yalla. Yalla habibi. It's always the words.
So after you became famous, what was it like to go back home, Dubai, Lebanon? Like what kind of, welcome did you receive?
Really amazing feedback and amazing. Like I remember going back to Dubai for the first time after the success. And remember, Dubai and the Middle East were instrumental in the success. So it wasn't like I came to North America, became this thing, like David Hasselhoff in Germany or something, and then you had to go back home. It was they were instrumental in making me happen. So it was really a cool full circle moment coming back, doing Virgin Megastores signing. Wow. All I remember is thousands of people just lined up trying to take my autograph, and I had my high school teachers come out. I swear to God, it was so cool.
Endearing.
My PE teacher, like I was like, what? Mr. Roosevelt, like, what are you doing here? It was good to see, It was nice to see, not the respect, but kind of like my hard work and all the sweat and tears and get recognized, and say, hey, Karl, man, good job. You did it. You finally made something, it's really cool.
Now, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you a fun question.
Let's do it.
If you could do a collaboration with any, like your fashion is on point, and so I know you're always have an eye for aesthetics. If you could do a collaboration or a music video with any fashion designer, alive or dead, who would it be?
Wow. I would say I've always liked Versace because he was very loud.
Yes.
And I kind of like that. But I've in time you change, right? I'm going a little more subdued lately. I've realized, well, it depends. On stage, I like loud.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing interviews and things, I've realized you see, look, no chain today. No, usually I like 3 chains. I go a little bit heavy on gold and the diamonds. And
the all black is just hot. It'll never not be hot.
I think so. Listen, I'm not a fashion guy by any means. I always tell my team and I've had stylists in my life and they're always like, no, Karl, you're fashion. I'm like,
But you are.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Look.
I don't know what that is. I think that's just an expression of who I am. And I've realized that's what fashion is.
Right.
You don't have to, man,
Authentically.
it all comes back
Yeah.
to wanting to be like everyone else. I think it's by nature, you're right. We just want to be, oh my God, look how cool that guy looks. Oh, I want to wear what he wears, you know?
Right.
But I realized that that's kind of what fashion is being you.
Yes.
I always struggled with that. I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough. It all comes from insecurities, right? And then when you're finally secure and people like, oh, yo, Karl Wolf, I'm like, oh shit, so I know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because I have no clue. I didn't study fashion. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just know what looks good on me.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you said Versace, but then who do you think now in your music video collaboration? Would it still be Versace? Probably because you are loud
Some
in
pieces.
music.
Some pieces, yes. I've learned to not go overboard. So you can't do all your pieces loud. You got to have one dope piece.
Yeah.
Like my pants that I'm wearing now. And then the rest just kind of chill.
Yeah.
Let your personality shine a little more.
Yes.
It's okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, it has been an absolute pleasure to hear from you. You are so inspirational, and I love that you've got so many different gears and so much on the go. You're just constantly expanding in every direction, and I think a lot of people can learn a lot from that.
You're amazing. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much
This is awesome.
for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning in. We are going to be making more content like this, so please make sure to like and subscribe so that we can reach more people like yourselves. I'd also like to thank our sponsor at the Soho Hotel for making this possible. Please stay tuned for more Haute conversations.